Here's what happened. If I were to go tell you that I'm going to go do something right now, there'd be so many moments where I would then do something completely different and I would get distracted. It could be for a few seconds, few minutes, few hours, just depends on like what the hell's going on that day or what's happening in that moment. And then I'd have that moment of like, oh shit, that's right. I said I was going to go do that thing. I got to go do it now. And, I'd have those moments of going down the tornado thoughts of frustration, being a little pissed, having that friction come up in my body and pressure and resistance. And then that would happen so many times where by the end of the day, you could feel exhausted by doing something like that and having that constantly be happening. And my guess by you being here is that you've dealt with that, where you say you're going to go do one thing and then you do something completely different. And so I want to get into naturally how you can break this pattern of daily distractions. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. I want to say thank you for being here. I usually say like you could have so many distractions that are happening right now. So by you being here, that does say something. And for this one particularly, it does say something on a deep level when it comes to distractions. So I honor that you're here and that you're present in this space. And we can even take a deep breath in, especially for this topic today of daily distractions. Let's take a deep breath in and exhale. Oh, you're here. Hell yeah. You can even take a moment to celebrate. I'm going to do like the double tap, raise my arms up and be like, yeah, like, let's go. Something to acknowledge that, like, hell yeah, you made it. If you're new here, welcome. If you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. And I have a few commitments for you that I want to kick it off with. The first one is the commitment to continue to grow this show. It's been awesome to witness the growth of this movement. And so by you subscribing, following the show, it helps with that commitment. And then the second commitment is to be honest with you, to share the true experience, full picture to the best of my ability for you, because I don't want to just share the results of like, oh, it's so amazing. This is what happens when you make burnout extinct. You can feel more alive, feel more energized, more excited about the possibilities without sharing the hard work that it takes to be able to do that, to put the reps in. And I want to be able to share both of that with you, even when it's uncomfortable, so that you have expectations of like what the hell is going to happen for being able to get the results that you want to get and the work that it takes. And what I will tell you is that it creates what I call the soul confidence of putting in the reps, putting in the work, this confidence that you are able to take into the rest of your life. That fires me up for how you show up for other people, how you show up for yourself. It's just like a whole new level of confidence that I know I can personally say from my own experience has been such a gift in my life, especially as someone that used to be really scared to like share who I was with people and share my true opinions and beliefs. And instead of, lying like constantly, there'd be so many moments where I'd lie because I'd be so scared to share truly how I felt and what was going on. So I want you to know that is my commitment, is to be honest with you and to focus in on sharing the full picture. So thank you for being here. I'm fired up about this one. Let's get into it for today. Today, I want to talk about breaking that pattern naturally without taking a pill, but like focusing on connecting to the body, understanding what's happening for the pattern and the habit that you could have right now with daily distractions. And how I want to do it is in 3 levels. And I'm going to connect it back to burnout to kick it off with. But understanding the 3 levels from a belief perspective, from then the short term, what you could do like right after this conversation, and then what you could do long term to help make it more of a permanent shift, towards making sure that you're staying focused. And what I will remind you with this is that nobody's perfect. So you will have those moments where you get off track, but the focus is to minimize the amount of moments you're getting off track and maximize the amount of time that you're focused on what it is you said you were going to do, you're actually doing it. So how it relates back to burnout is that you can think about it. I'm trying to think of like when I was a kid, I would spin around in a circle really, really fast. You may have done that too. And then you get so dizzy afterwards, right? And it's like the whole room is spinning and you got to like take a moment to like lay down. That is what it can feel like when we're dealing with these daily distractions that come in to our day, and we get sucked into them. So that could be through people coming in and interrupting us, partner, family, friends, needing us for something, or it could be from our phones, from notifications coming in through our computer, through our phones, or us just going as out of habit. And whenever we feel frustration or we feel like resistance and we feel uncertain about something, we could distract ourselves by getting on our phone or on our computer. So there are so many of these daily distractions where then by the end of the day, you can feel like super dizzy and exhausted and feel like you want to just lay down and curl up and be done for the day. And when you were doing that over a long period of time, that is where you go towards that chronic exhaustion and towards that one-way ticket to hitting burnout. Because again, you're like switching back and forth, and it's just that dizzy feeling that comes up. So bringing it back to burnout bringing it back into these levels to help avoid the burnout, it's understanding a few things of what's going on, because there is a pattern that is happening. And that's something I've realized in my journey of now focusing on this a lot recently, because it's something I really struggle with, where I would, say I'm going to go do one thing and then I, do something completely different for so many moments. And it even got to a point for me, for an extreme, where I've really had to minimize clutter. So for me, I used to have like over 2,000 photos and videos, and I had to bring it on down to now I have like 3 on my phone. And I created this whole elaborate system, which is like something else to get into. If you want to hear about it or learn about it, you can send me a message, but I won't go too much into it now. But like I had to take the photos and videos, I move them into Canva, and I'm able to create some like cool designs. Like I can create like photo collages and then give that to like my life partner as a gift, which is super fun. But then I can get rid of a lot of photos that way, because I give the gift and then maybe I'll keep 1 or 2 to remember and for the next collage, my top ones. And then for videos, I might have it where, I'm keeping videos of certain important things and milestones for my life, but then I'm deleting a lot of other stuff. And so it could be a photo collage, could be vision boards, but I create these things and then it's like they're done and I can let go of them. And I can be like, all right, I'm done with this, and be able to clean up the clutter. So that's one example. And then with messages too, text messages, I delete the messages once they're done for the conversation, so that it's all cleaned up for my messages and I'm not going down the rabbit hole of like, oh, what did this person say way back when? Oh, I haven't seen this person. And that can be helpful to like reconnect with people. I mean, there are those benefits, but for me, I get way more distracted by it. And so I've realized I've had to clean up that clutter. Especially like I'll do another thing where I'll delete all of the phone calls I've had and the voice messages. I'll clean all of that up. Be able to clean up my emails, so that's I get to that inbox 0. Like that is something that is really important for me, so that then I can have better chances of focusing on certain things I want to focus in on. So the belief, to get into it for that first level, is the belief that it is possible for you to get better at dealing with these daily distractions that come in, that you can create more improvement for your focus. And that is a belief that I want to tell you, it is possible. We are all capable as human beings to figure this out. And I want to tell you that from personal experience. Like you can even go online and search for people that were super distracted and be able to see stories of people improving. So it is possible. It's now figuring out what's going to be best for you. I go back to the quote of John Butcher, which is, there is no one right way, but there is a right way for you. And it's such a powerful quote to hold on to. It's figuring out for you what feels in alignment, and more importantly, what resonates for you to apply. And then by reviewing it, noticing if it works for you or not. So first is that level 1, like realizing, okay, this is possible. And you've got to remind yourself of that in moments where it can feel like super overwhelming. You could feel the anxiety bubbles that come up, because those do hit, where you're like, is it really possible for me? And you got to remind yourself, you can come back to this conversation and be like, oh yeah, it is possible. And then from there, it's now moving into level 2. So how can you navigate this on the short term? Like what are ways to support you? And actually what I'm going to do it right now, is I'm going to go to ChatGPT. And I'm just going to type it in of like, what are ways, I'll do it right now. What are ways to avoid distracting yourself? And you can think about this for both work and personal life too. They're both intertwined, I believe. I mean, again, we're one person here. Okay, so let's see what comes through. Okay. So here are just some simple examples. You could probably even look this up on, Google. You can type this in, but it's like, all right, right here is define your why. Be clear about why the task matters and what you're working towards. Okay, breaking tasks into chunks. Tackle smaller pieces to make the task less intimidating. Keep your focus sharp. Set priorities. Be able to create a distraction-free environment. Declutter your space. Limit digital distractions. So turn off notifications, use focus modes, or install apps. Use physical blockers, noise-canceling headphones, or even do not disturb. You may have to go back to this because I'm going through these pretty fast. I'm realizing that as I'm talking. The other one is set boundaries. So communicate with others, letting family, friends, and what I've talked about with like a partner, being able to say, hey, like I'm focused on this task right now for the next like 30 minutes. The other one, time block your schedule. So create these blocks of time where you're focused on one specific task and you're getting that checked off. So that could be for 5 minutes, that could be for 30 minutes, for an hour. And then there's another one. Oh yeah, train your mind. Here we go. Practice mindfulness. So techniques like meditation or focused breathing can improve your ability to resist distractions. So you can pay attention to what causes distractions. So this is so important. I want to get into a pattern is like you could be feeling bored. And so you want to distract yourself. You could be feeling overwhelmed. So you're going to distract yourself. But you can find alternative responses to that. And then it gets into a few others here. Let's see, because I feel like we could go down this for a while. Yeah, limit multitasking is another one. So focus on one task at a time instead of switching between tasks. The other one is reward yourself. So use incentives to reinforce a habit of staying on track. That's where I go back to the habit of celebrating, being able to physically celebrate in some way. And then you could have a reward of, if you typically watch shows and you really enjoy watching shows and that gives your time to relax, okay, make sure you get a certain amount of work done before then watching a new show. That can be really helpful too, to be able to stack those two. So you have the answers. I mean, the answers are out there, right? So different ways to be able to make this happen are out there. It's figuring out which one resonates, which one do you notice improvement in, and then you can be sticking with this in the short term. Where I think it gets even deeper is then understanding from the body, what is happening for the pattern, what is happening for this habit. I think that's really important to take some time and space to get into, because then that will help you to want to show up to focus on these short-term ways to improve and interrupt the pattern of these daily distractions. And when I get into the pattern, it's what I've realized is that it is a habit of saying I'm going to go do one thing and then doing something else. That's been a habit that has been built up over a long period of time. And I don't know where it started for me, but it's just realizing that it's a habit. And with habits, I can create a new habit. And I know it sounds so simple and you're kind of like, well, I get it. But I really want to help you understand this, is that it has been a pattern that has been built up over a number of reps in your body to now make it your go-to habit, where you can even notice doing it without even realizing it consciously, where you may spend just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, on a task, and then you get distracted and you go and check out something on your phone, or you go and have a conversation with someone, or you get up and move around. So the first step is being able to recognize what is your specific pattern, what is your specific habit with getting daily distractions. What do you notice that comes up for you? And within that, what are the emotions associated with this? Coming back to the body, is it when you get bored that you go and you distract yourself more often? Let's say you're focusing on a task and you're not feeling really excited about it, but you got to get it done. Okay, is that one of the main reasons for why you get distracted? Is the other one because you have your phone with you and you have your notifications still on, which would be, I'd recommend a great place to start is taking off your notifications. And so by having that phone with you, you have a higher percentage chance of getting distracted with a notification that comes in. And that could be because you're familiar with having notifications come in and having that type of distraction. It's something that you've had so many times happen before. So that's where it has become a habit. The other one that could be coming up for you is it may be just you distract yourself because it could be too easy to do the task and focus on the task. And this is something where it gets a little bit into like thinking back to school, where we can get rewarded for the things that are really hard. And it's where like the teacher acknowledges if you tried really hard and you were struggling with it really hard, they're like, oh, such a good job. And then if you did something really fast and easy, they may not give you as big of a congratulations. And I realized that this was a pattern I had where I thought I had to make it harder than it really seemed to be, or I had to make it harder than it may actually be to do the task, which was a moment for me to be like, oh shit, that's right. Like I'm trying to make it harder than it has to be because I'm looking for this reward that's imaginary of like, oh, it's so hard and challenging and you overcame it. So you get this big reward from an imaginary person that doesn't exist right in front of me. But what happened was because I got into this pattern of it has to be harder in order to get, that bigger celebration, it then became the habit of, and you could call it self-sabotaging, you could call it, procrastinating, but like I got into the habit of then pushing things off so that it would take longer to get done. So that when I would get it done, then I'd be like, oh yeah, it was really hard work. It was really intense. And so therefore it's normal. And the example that I could share with you is like doing a video for social media or even recording a podcast like this. Instead, if I were to get a topic, write down a few ideas early on and like be like, oh, and get it done, I could then wait a few hours before actually recording the thing. Because it would feel, if I got it done super fast and then I'm going to go and record, it'd feel awkward for the body. I literally would feel like a feeling like I'm hitting against an imaginary wall, pressure, tension. There's resistance there because it's different than what I'm used to, which is like, oh, this is supposed to be harder. It's supposed to take longer. And so that could be coming up for you in certain areas where you could notice like tasks that you actually think are supposed to be really easy. And you even had those moments where, I'm sure you had an example where you've waited like 3 days and then all of a sudden you get focused on the task and you realize it took you like 30 minutes. But you wasted 3 days trying to think about it, ruminating on it, pushing it off, feeling overwhelmed by it, that anxiety building of getting ready to go do it. But then it took you like 30 minutes. So we have had those moments that have come up. And it's recognizing that this is the pattern, that this is the habit in order to start to make the changes. And it's catching yourself, where for me, it's catching that I'm going and distracting myself, interrupting the pattern, being able to recognize what's happening, and then be able to push through the resistance. That's where you honor the resistance from the body. You'll get pressure and you get tension in those moments. And then it's shaking it out. For me, it's movement, shaking it out, or being able to do an inhale and then exhale with sound. So like but releasing the energy out. That's what can be helpful for you to get back on track faster so that you're back and focused on getting the task done and starting to build the new habit of reminding your body that actually it can be easier, that can be my normal, that can be natural. And it's starting small and building up from there. And what I mean by small is that, let's say, 5 minutes into a task, you get distracted and it becomes, you go down like, you go check social media or something, and that's become your pattern. Well, if you can now be able to add 1 more minute at least to focusing on the task and just say, okay, I'm going to focus on 6 minutes. I'm going to push through. There's going to be resistance that comes up at 5 minutes. I'm just going to push through and stick with it for 6 minutes and then get distracted and consciously realize I'm distracting myself. that is a win. That's a moment to celebrate because you've added another minute. You think about what that can build over months and years. And that's your starting point. And I go back to where you start doesn't have to be where you end up. But that can be helpful for you to give you perspective on this of like, what is the reason for this pattern and this habit? And when you can identify that, the body then recognizes that you recognize the pattern and the habit. And actually, you'll get to this point where you can work with your body to start to improve and create a new habit because you're helping to create direction for the body and clarity for the body of what it is you want, and to start to create the action to move towards that. And I come back to, the more you understand something, the less scary it is. So the more you can bring awareness to this new habit that you want to create for the body, and remembering the habit formation process where you're going to have the 3 phases. The awkward phase, where it's going to be awkward for the body to try to figure out how to implement this new habit in your day. That's where it's adding like the extra minute and not get distracted. And then it's going to move into the resistance phase, where you're naturally going to get resistance that comes up from the body because you're getting it closer to the autopilot phase, where it's about to become a habit that's part of your daily life. And your body's now recognizing that, oh shit, this thing's going to stay with us for a new habit of making it easier, of having more time to focus on certain tasks. If that's creating time blocks, if that is limiting screen time, if that is being able to put your phone outside of the bedroom when you go to bed. Like, the body's going to realize that this is going to become a part of your daily life. And that can create uncertainty for the body, which then can create a fear response, the stress response where fear can come up. Because with anything uncertain, it can be, with the unknown, that can be a moment of resistance, or not resistance, but it can be a moment of fear that can come up of unknown for what the future is going to hold for you and the path that you're traveling down for your future. And the body wants to keep you safe. And so it's going to try to bring you back to your old ways because that has been familiar. And it's a moment for you to honor that, give yourself grace, but to continue to show up and put the reps in. And the more reps you put in, the more comfortable then the body's going to be of recognizing that this is something that is actually what you want, and to recognize that you are safe in being able to move down this path in this direction. And it comes back to starting small. Like, that's how you build up this momentum for it. So that is level 2, is being able to understand the patterns, having all these different examples of what you can try out. And what I realized didn't work for me, and you may have had this issue, is what didn't work for me was apps to block the amount of time that I'm spending on like Instagram or on my, on certain other apps. I'm trying to think like other examples, other social media platforms, it could be TikTok, it could be checking YouTube. But for me, I realized that didn't work. Or even just completely not being able to access my phone at certain points. That did not work because, one, I realized that I got into this like binge approach where once I got the time back on, well, I'm going to go down. Like, I wasn't able to check it out for all this time. So I'm going to now go even more hard and intense on the rabbit holes on social media and getting distracted even more. And so it just became this pendulum swing where it wasn't really helpful for me. And then whenever I had the ability to not stay consistent with that habit, and or the other thing would be like being able to change the amount of time, because I don't know recently, but I know when I was looking at it, you could actually click a button and get out of it restricting you from a certain app. And so when that would happen and I would do that and be like, oh, I actually really want to go on Instagram right now, because I'd make some sort of excuse, or I want to go on YouTube, or I really want to check my messages. What would happen is then I'd break the commitment I'd made to myself by exiting out of the time block, or of the time restriction. And so that would then start to create distrust with my body, which I didn't know this at the time, but looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And so then it would create more anxiety that would build up within me, this feeling of uncertainty, because then my body would respond of like, can I actually trust you to listen to the signals that I'm letting you know you're headed towards burnout? And it creates confusion for the body of whether or not you're going to honor these commitments. And that creates just like the dizziness that can come up for the head and this overwhelming feeling. And then you're going to bed and you can have these anxiety dreams and you go down that cycle. And again, that's a one-way ticket to hitting burnout, which I want you to avoid. So let's move it now into like level 3. And this is the long game for this one with level 3. And it comes to the commitments. This has been something I've been working on, and I'm still working on it. I have noticed some big changes, which is helpful to share with you. But I'm telling you, I'm still in the testing phase of this, and it's taken a long time. It's been, I think, at least a few months working on this thing, and that is being able to stick with what it is I say I'm going to go do. And so you can think about this in 2 ways: for what you think you say to yourself in your mind, and then what you say out loud to people. So the example that's a simple one would be, I would wake up out of bed, and the thought would be, okay, I'm going to go brush my teeth. But what would happen is, instead of brushing my teeth, I would start to journal instead. Like, I'd do my gratitude for the day. I'd go through like, what are my 3 things I'm going to get done in the work day, and I go down that route. So I'm now not honoring the commitment I had made to myself. I'm going against it. I'm technically distracting myself from the task. And that is then going to create more of that dizziness, and this feeling of distrust with my body. And so what I have been working on, and I've gotten, a few months where I've made the mistakes and I've had to like move through it, is I will, whatever I say I'm going to go do in my mind or to someone else, I do it. Even if I know it's a mistake and I could easily make a change, I stick with it so that I can close out the loop of the action. And then I remind my body of, like, I actually do what I say I'm going to do. And this one can create a lot of frustration, right? There can be a lot of frustration. There can be a lot of resistance, but I will tell you, my goal with this is just to have to do this once for a path, so that I'll never have to do this again, because I've gotten so solid as a habit of honoring what I say I'm going to do. And when I get off track, because again, nobody's perfect, it'll be really easy for me to get back on track and to continue to grow and move towards who it is I want to become, and to continue to live a life that has burnout extinct in it. And some other examples for this to make sense for you would be, the one I have is, oh man, I'm gonna try to find a funny one. It would be, okay. Yeah, it would be if I pick up all the things to go shower, like let's say my towel, I got my extra clothes, but then I forgot my socks. Instead of stopping before going to the bathroom and going back and get my socks, I would actually go all the way to the bathroom. I would unload the clothes. You can see where this is going. Unload everything, the towel, and then go back to the room, pick up the socks, and then go back to the bathroom, and then go and shower. So that's what I mean by following through all the way until the action is done, and then being able to remind yourself of the mistakes. And so for me, it's like, oh man, next time I'm going to make sure I remember those socks, because I don't want to have to go back for another trip. And so it helps for the body to recognize where you're making those mistakes, and then you actually can learn the lesson in those mistakes, and then let go of the mistakes and continue to make those improvements. And over time, what I've noticed in my life is that I'm making less mistakes. It doesn't mean I'm still not taking risks or in going out there and trying to go after the vision I have for my life and the goals I have for my life and taking these big actions. But I am minimizing, like, just through my body, minimizing the amount of mistakes that I'm making in these day-to-day actions. And that can come back to the daily distractions. Because if I say I'm going to focus for 30 minutes or an hour on the podcast episode, of researching it, or of focusing on 30 to an hour of cleaning up my notes, I'm then going to do it and minimize getting distracted, because I've built it up for a habit and put in enough reps that I have created a new path for my life moving forward. And it's, again, going back to the bridge, I'm creating now a very strong bridge. And the other bridge is starting to break down, of the bridge that used to be the habit of getting distracted every 5 minutes or getting distracted every 30 minutes, whatever it is for you, for how you get distracted, or getting distracted every time I feel bored, or every time I feel overwhelmed. Being able to minimize the amount of times that you're doing that. And that's where I think it's going to be so cool for how it's looking for right now for me, that it's going to become this change where then I don't have to go back to doing this repeatedly, because I have put in the work up front to stick with this and make it a change that I feel is going to be permanent moving forward. And it doesn't mean, again, I'm not going to get off track. Nobody's perfect, but I'm going to minimize drastically the amount of times I'm getting distracted. And that is the long game that you can try out in your own life, is to honor the commitments, honor the thoughts that you say, the actions that you say, being able to do that. And you have to bring common sense into this, right? So you may have a thought that comes up of like, you really want to like say this really shitty thing to this person, like that's coming through. Got to recognize that that may not be a helpful idea to say that thing to that person. And you can even tell that to yourself, saying, you know what, this isn't really helpful to say that to this person. I can acknowledge and accept that I want to say this right now and honor my feelings. And maybe I have to say it in a different way of like something hurt. Let's say a partner says something to you and it really hurt. You can communicate it in a more effective way than just saying exactly what you wanted to say in your mind. So common sense, please use that for this. It can save you a lot of headache and a lot of other additional mistakes that could come up. But at the same time, for tasks that you're doing for yourself, like, go in and you forgot your sock to go to the bathroom and shower, like let that action go all the way through of not picking up your socks and having to go back to the bedroom in order to pick up the sock to go to the shower. Like I know I'm talking about this one, like it's super simple. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you can use that example for all the other situations that come up, the more complex situations. But that can really be helpful for you to recognize like how simple of an action this could be and what impact it could potentially have for you in the long term. And that's something where it could take, again, months, it could take potentially days or years, but then you don't ever have to go back and do this process. Like that's the goal for me, is to never have to go back and do this. It's like an experience that I'm really grateful for, but I never want to have happen again. And it's going to require some of that effort. And so that's the long game with this. So to recap it for you, for the 3 levels, first one is belief. Remembering that it is possible to be able to improve how much time you're focusing on tasks and minimizing the amount of daily distractions, and in the importance of interrupting these patterns. The second one is short term. What can you do in the short term after this conversation? Going back to a few examples of time blocking is one, focusing on one task at a time is the other one, being able to minimize notifications on your phone. So being able to go to your settings on your phone and take off notifications, being able to tell partners or friends or parents, if you're living with parents still, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to be working at this time and I'd really appreciate not being distracted so I can focus on these important tasks. So those are some of the short term. And then reminding yourself of the awareness of what is the pattern or the habit that is causing you to get distracted. What is the emotion that's causing you to go get distracted? What are the actions? Being able to observe yourself and in those moments, and being able to take the time to journal that out. You can journal it out. You can remind it on a notes app. And then for the long term, it's honoring what it is you say you're going to do. No matter how small, not no matter how small it is. I mean, start small is important, but then being able to honor, let's say you are going to go and shower and you take the clothes, but you forget your socks. Being able to first bring everything to the shower, to the bathroom, and then come back and get the socks, because you're able to close out the loop for the action, reminding your body that you follow through on it, and then you learn the lesson in the mistake, and then you can let go of the mistake and be able to improve that way. And over the long term, you're going to minimize. I've noticed that in my own personal experience, I've minimized the amount of mistakes that I'm making, which is awesome to then go and be able to move up to new levels of possibilities for my life and opening up new doorways. And it creates greater confidence. So my confidence is growing within me, of trusting myself and trusting my instincts, trusting what comes up or the first thing that comes up, and being able to build that soul confidence that I've talked about even greater, because we all have access to it. It's just being able to tap into it and allow it to continue to grow and expand. So I'm fired up for you to be able to embark on this journey of dealing with these distractions. And it's really important to get to the main root of it and to address that area. And then all the other stuff, I mean, you can just look it up online for ways to improve. There's so many different ways to do this. And again, it goes back to figuring out what is the right way for you. That's really important. And if you haven't heard it yet today, I believe in you. You're absolutely capable of this. Start small, celebrate the effort, celebrate the small wins, because those lead to the big wins. And it's really important, especially in this area, to focus in on this for the distractions, because distractions can be frustrating and can create this overwhelm. And I don't want you to have that one-way ticket of hitting burnout. So you're absolutely capable of doing this. You have the capacity as a human being to make this happen for yourself. I believe in you, and you got this.